for ransom are on the rise in the country. Over the past decade, the crime has risen by nearly 200%. Lower and middle income individuals are being targeted by organized kidnapping syndicates for extortion. Just last week, for instance, police arrested 7 men linked to the kidnapping of an 18-year-old Wits University student who was lured via a dating site. It's understood they demanded 30,000 rand ransom from the student's family. Let's speak now to eNCA senior reporter Aviwe Mtila. He's tracking developments here in Johannesburg. And Aviwe, of course, we saw that kidnappings are at a shockingly a higher number now in the country. Previously, the minister never used to add this category when he would give us the crime statistics, but I guess it shows how serious it's become.
Very serious indeed, Maseko. Shocking levels of kidnappings that are happening in the country. And you heard those numbers from Police Minister Pekekele. If you are to ask the South African Police Service, they'll tell you that kidnappings have increased by 200% over the last 10 years. But if you are to speak to experts, they'll go on to tell you that, in fact, those numbers could be much higher, as a lot of people don't go and report these cases to the police. Therefore, they go undocumented. But it's a broad spectrum of kidnappings that happen on a daily basis, Maseko. For example, you'll find those express kidnappings where you could be nabbed just on the side of the road, taken to an ATM, all your money in your bank withdrawn, and possibly wait until midnight where they can possibly withdraw again. Or you'll have your very organized, high-value kidnappings where tens of millions of rands are actually extorted from your family. But anything in between that, where it could be a domestic kidnapping where a father goes and takes the child because of those domestic situations that are ongoing. But you mentioned that other case of now the trend that we're seeing around the social media and the dating apps. That 18-year-old that was kidnapped from Wits, we understand that that's just one of dozens of that particular syndicate, and it's quite worrying that it would take this particular Wits student to actually get to the bottom of this particular trend. In fact, something that the Police Minister, Pekekele, touched on even yesterday. Let's take a listen to Police Minister Pekekele.
In Gauteng, a multidisciplinary team led by the anti-kidnapping task team rescued an 18-year-old Wits University student from a kidnapping syndicate last Wednesday, 20 September 2023. The syndicate had been targeting the LGBTQI+ community through a popular dating app. Police have broken the back of this particular kidnapping syndicate that has so far been linked to over 50 kidnappings, to be more exact, 56 kidnappings, where ransom demands were being made. Still on kidnapping in the Northwest, in August 2023, an intelligence-driven operation led to the arrest of 7 suspects who kidnapped the victims from ransom related to municipality tenders. The clients were lured to a house to sign a contract relating to the solar geyser project to the value of 17 million. The suspects, who were dressed in police uniform, were found holding the victims hostages and demanding an amount of 300,000 rand. The suspects are facing kidnapping charges, including that of impersonating police officials and possession of fraudulent documents. Recoveries included 2 unlicensed firearms with 15 rounds of ammunition, SEP's uniform with 2 appointment certificates and 2 vehicles.
So, Aviwe, you've been speaking to a lot of experts about this. What are they saying victims and their families should do for their safe release? I mean, sometimes in a ransom situation, the family is sometimes told not to pay the ransom, but they want the member of their family back.
It's a difficult terrain to navigate around. But for the victim in particular, it's always best to just adhere to whatever the kidnappers want, as they're not actually after you per se, but after the amount or the money that they're seeking. So it's best to just comply to what they're saying in some of the experts that I've spoken to. For the families, it's a bit more difficult to navigate around that terrain. For example, the police will tell you that they'd want whatever assistance on their radar. We had that case with the Morty family, the 4 boys kidnapped, family moved to Dubai. They tried to interdict even the police from going into the investigations and questioning the 4 boys. So it's difficult terrain to navigate. But in speaking to the experts, in fact, I spoke to a former South African Police Services kidnap negotiator who had this advice for people at home on how to just navigate when one is kidnapped and also what happens after that.
Well, I think across the board, no matter what kind of kidnapping it is, you just cooperate with the suspects. Usually you are just a means to get to something, and that's usually going to be money. Cooperate, don't fight back, don't argue, do whatever they say and pay them. That's, literally the safest way to make sure that you're going to be released safely.
And afterwards, is it wise then to go to the police, given even just understanding this Wits student is one of 80 of that particular syndicate? Is it wise then to report to the police, or what do we do after the kidnapping?
Look, I do think there's still value in going to the police afterwards and reporting it, if anything, for statistics. And if anything, if those 80 people hadn't reported those cases, we wouldn't know about them. So I do think there's still value. What the police will be able to do about it after the fact depends on the circumstances of the actual case. The more professional groups, you're probably not going to catch them, but the less professional people, you have a chance of catching them. And of course, that will be preventing someone from doing it again. But of course, it is very concerning that we have, I think, 86 cases that were reported to the police. Why weren't these people caught sooner? I mean, it's like having a rapist who rapes 80 people. It's a policing failure. So we shouldn't have people going up to those levels of where we have 80 reported cases. And I can guarantee you that's probably not even 1/10 of the actual cases that occurred by that same syndicate of people.
All right, senior reporter Aviwe Mtila looking at that story for us. Let's leave it there for now. All right, to this story.